Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita by Satsvarup Das Goswami, Volume 1, A Lifetime in Preparation, India, 1896 to 1965. Chapter 6, An Unknown Friend. So in May 1947, Prabhupada met this person, Mr. Pratap, Mahendra Pratap Raja, who had started his, his society called the World Federation. So some discussion between them. And he said he has also written a book, so Religion of Love, and he wanted Abhay or Srila Prabhupada to read it. Abhay got the book, read it, and in July 1947, while he was visiting Kanpur, wrote a reply. He had traveled to Kanpur not as a spiritual teacher, but as a pharmaceutical salesman. Yet a typewriter had been available, and out had come his preaching. In continuation of my last postcard, I beg to inform you that I have finished the reading of your book, Religion of Love. In my opinion, the whole thesis is based on the philosophy of pantheism, and the approach is made by the services of mankind. Religion of love is a true religious idea, but if the approach is made through the service of mankind only, then the process is made imperfect, partial, and unscientific. The true religion of love is perfectly inculcated in the Bhagavad Gita. Besides, you have not quoted any authority for all your statements, so it is more or less dogmatic. Dogmatic means it's his own ideas, his own speculation. If different men put different dogmatic views about religion and its essentials, who is to be accepted and who is not to be? Therefore, the approach shall be and must be authoritative, scientific, and universal. So this is something Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they emphasized on scriptures. Everything we say must be backed by scriptures. No speculation allowed. Abhay then gave a summary of the Bhagavad Gita in 10 points, concluding the highest service that can be rendered to mankind is, therefore, to preach the philosophy and religion of Bhagavad Gita for all time, all places, and all people. But extended philosophical dialogue was not usually the result of his letters. In 1947, when Abhay wrote to high government officers of the newly formed government of India, suggesting a remedy for riots, they turned him away. When he asked to talk with the governor of West Bengal, the governor's secretary replied, His Excellency regrets that he is unable to grant you an interview at present owing to heavy pressure of work. When he wrote to the assistant secretary to the Minister of Education, an assistant to the assistant secretary replied, The government of India regret that they are unable to accede to your request. No time for Prabhupada. Sometimes official interest took the form of patronizing pat on the head. I'm sure your scheme for establishing peace will meet with response from our Prime Minister. And another, he, the Minister of Education, is glad to see you are taking to rout out communalism. Glad to see you are taking to rout out communalism. He suggests that you get in touch with so-and-so. A local official asked not to be seen. I thank you for all that you have written and the fine sentiments which you have expressed. It is no use arguing the matter, as I do not think that I can serve any useful purpose by joining the organization which you wish to set up. And therefore you need not take the trouble of seeing me. I wish you, however, all success. In October, after the Calcutta riots of 1947, Abhay wrote to the chairman of the Rehabilitation Committee, who replied, regarding Hari Kirtan and Prashadam, you may make any program of your own, but I am afraid I'm not interested in the same, nor my committee, and therefore there is no necessity of a meeting with me. Abhay was fulfilling his role as a Vaishnava preacher, and the secretaries of various government offices were recognizing and addressing him as such. But they could not appreciate his applications of the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and his suggestions for Hari Kirtan. Occasionally, however, someone seemed interested. Mr. N.P. Asthana, High Court advocate, replied, I am very much obliged to you for your letter regarding your broad scheme about spiritual improvement. I thoroughly appreciate the fine feelings which have prompted you to write this letter and the kindness with which you have considered my query. I've been a student of Bhagavad Gita and have also imbibed some of its teachings, but I still lack a good deal and will be glad to be guided by a person of your accomplishment. You may kindly therefore send your scheme to me, on receipt of which I will be able to express my views. See, so in India, now we will see, Prabhupada could not establish his business, so he got into loans. His family also, he had hard time. And preaching-wise also, he didn't have good, lots of success. So it was Krishna only directing him to get out of India, to come to America and start the teaching here. See, ultimately, all success depends on Krishna. Our success is only to please Krishna, to be able to serve Krishna, not in the results of that service. Results are in his hands. But Prabhupada kept on pushing, kept on working. It was inevitable that Abhay would think of engaging Mahatma Gandhi in devotional service because of his lifetime of courageous, ascetic, and moral activities on behalf of his countrymen. Mahatma Gandhi had great power to influence the Indian masses. As with Mahendra Pratap of the World Federation, Mahatma Gandhi's idea of serving God was to try to bring happiness to men through politics and through his own invented methods. As one Englishman had said of Mahatma Gandhi, he is either a saint amongst the politicians or a politician amongst the saints. But be that as it may, he was not as yet fully engaged in pure devotion service, and his activities were not those of a Mahatma as described in Bhagavad Gita. The Gita defines a Mahatma as one who fully engages in worshipping Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always chanting his glories. The Mahatma encourages others to surrender to Krishna. So obviously that is Gita definition, but his title Mahatma came from politicians. I don't know who exactly gave him this title. But that's how it is. But because as a young man, Abhay had been a follower of Gandhi's, Abhay had a special feeling for him. Of course, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had later convinced him to engage exclusively in devotional service. But now Abhay felt his old friendship for Gandhi, even though Gandhi was a towering figure of worldwide fame and Abhay unknown both to Gandhi and to the world. On December 7, 1947, now this is very important, Abhay wrote to Gandhi from Kanpur. Gandhi was living at the Birla Mansion in Delhi, where large military forces throughout the city discouraged Hindu-Muslim rioting. Gandhi's secretary, Pyarelal Nayyar, described Gandhi at this time as the saddest man one could picture. The men he had led in the struggle for Indian independence, Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, and the others, had taken the leadership of the nation, and Gandhi, with his doctrines of non-violence, unity, and agrarianism, was now at odds with them in many ways. He feared he was becoming an anachronism. His former colleagues admired him but rejected his leadership. All his programs, Hindu-Muslim unity, non-violence, upliftment for the poor, all the praise throughout the world, were failures in the India of 1947. And that is true, actually. On a recent visit to a Muslim refugee camp, a crowd of Muslims who surrounded his car had cursed him. And at a public prayer meeting, a Hindu crowd had shouted him down and ended his meeting when he had attempted to read from the Quran. At 78 years, Gandhi was physically weak and melancholy. Means he was sad. In all likelihood, Abhay's letter would never reach him. Abhay knew it. Sending a letter to Gandhi would be like putting a note in a bottle and sending it to sea. It would arrive in the flood of mail and Gandhi would be too busy to see it. But Abhay sent it nonetheless. So he wrote, Dear friend Mahatma Ji, please accept my respectful namaskar. I'm your unknown friend, but I had to write to you at times. And again, although you never cared to reply them. I sent you my papers back to Godhead, but your secretaries told me that you have very little time to read the letters and much less for reading the magazines. I asked for an interview with you, but your busy secretaries never cared to reply this. Anyway, as I'm your very old friend, although unknown to you, I'm writing to you in order to bring you to the rightful position deserved by you. As a sincere friend, I must not deviate from my duty towards a friend like your good self. I tell you as a sincere friend that you must immediately retire from active politics if you do not desire to die an inglorious death. So this Prabhupada wrote to him in December of 1947 that you must immediately retire from active politics if you do not desire to die an inglorious death. You have 125 years to live as you have desired to live, but if you die an inglorious death, it is no worth. The honor and prestige that you have obtained during the course of a present lifetime are not possible to be obtained by anyone else within the living memory. But you must know that all these honors and prestiges were false in as much as they were created by the illusory energy of Godhead called the Maya. By this falsity, I do not mean to say that your so many friends were false to you, nor you were false to them. By this falsity, I mean illusion, or in other words, the false friendship and honors obtained thereby were but creation of Maya. And therefore, they are always temporary or false, as you may call it. But none of you, neither your friends nor yourself, know this truth. A sadhu is not supposed to flatter, but to cut. This is the basis of his friendship, that he cuts away the illusion of the materialistic person. Mahatma Gandhi, forsaken by his friends, bitterly disappointed at the outcome of the long, hard struggle for Indian independence, and apprehensive about the future, had been reduced to a position in which he might be able to realize that his friends and work were ultimately illusory. Thus, it was a perfect time for him to comprehend Abhay's message. So Abhay further has written, now by the grace of God, that illusion is going to be cleared, and thus your faithful friends like Acharya Kriplani and those others are accusing you for your inability at the present moment to give them any practical program of work as you happen to give them during your glorious days of non-cooperation movement. But you are also in a plight to find out a proper solution for the present political tangle created by your opponents. You should therefore take a note of warning from your insignificant friend like me that unless you retire timely from politics and engage yourself 100% in the preaching work of Bhagavad Gita, which is a real function of the Mahatmas, you shall have to meet with such inglorious deaths as Mussolini, Hitler, or Lloyd George met with. For years, Abhay had wanted to approach Mahatma Gandhi with this message. In fact, He had written before, although it had been of no avail. But now he was convinced that unless Gandhi got out of politics, he would soon die an inglorious death. That Gandhi was remaining active in politics rather than preaching devotion service put him in the need of warning. Abhay was writing to save a friend. You can easily understand as to how some of the political enemies in the garb of friends, both Indian and English, have deliberately cheated you and have broken your heart by doing the same mischief for you, for which you have struggled so hard for so many years. You wanted chiefly Hindu-Muslim unity in India, and they have tactfully managed to undo your work by creation of the Pakistan and India separately. You wanted freedom for India, but they have given permanent dependence of India. You wanted to do something for the upliftment of the position of the Bhangis, but they're still rotting as Bhangis, even though you are living in the Bhangi colony. They're all therefore illusions, and when these things will be presented to you as they are, you must consider them as God sent. God has favored you by dissipating the illusion you were hovering in, and by the same illusion you were nursing those ideas as truth. Abhay dutifully attempted to inform Gandhi that there was nothing absolute within this relative world. Ahimsa, non-violence, must always be followed by violence, just as light is followed by darkness. Nothing is absolute truth in the dual world. You did not know this, Abhay wrote. Neither you ever cared to know this from the right sources, and therefore all your attempts to create unity were followed by disunity, and ahimsa was followed by hinsa. But it's just not easy to see this. Abhay pointed out that Gandhi had never undergone the standard practice of spiritual advance, namely accepting a bona fide spiritual master. Although Bhagavad Gita declares the necessity of accepting a guru in disciplic succession, Gandhi was well known for listening to his inner voice and for extracting ideas from various writers like Ruskin Bond and Thoreau and mixing them with teachings from the New Testament and the Gita. Had Gandhi approached a guru, said Abhay, he would not have become bewildered within the sphere of relative truth. So further Prabhupada wrote, in the Katha Upanishad it is ordered that one must approach the bona fide guru who is not only well versed in all the scriptures of the world, but is also the realized soul in Brahma, the absolute, in order to learn the science of absolute truth. So also it is instructed in the Bhagavad Gita as follows, Tad Viddhi Pranipadena Pariprashnena Sevaya. But I know that you never underwent such transcendental teaching, except some severe penances which you invented for your own purpose, as you have invented so many things in the course of experimenting with the relative truths. You might have easily avoided them if you had approached the gurus as above mentioned. Recognizing Mahatma Gandhi's godly qualities and austerities, Abhay requested him to employ his moral elevation for surrendering to the absolute truth. Abhay urged him to get out of politics immediately. But your sincere efforts to attain some godly qualities by austerities, etc., surely have raised you some higher platform which you can better utilize for the purpose of the absolute truth. If you, however, remain satisfied with such temporary position only and do not try to know the absolute truth, then surely you are to fall down from the artificially exalted position under the laws of nature. But if you want really to approach the absolute truth and want to do some real good to the people in general, all over the world, which shall include your ideas of unity, peace, and non-violence, then you must give up the rotten politics immediately and rise up for the preaching work of the philosophy and religion of Bhagavad Gita without offering unnecessary and dogmatic interpretations on them. I had occasionally discussed this subject matter in my paper, Back to Godhead, and a leaf from the same is enclosed herein for your reference. I would only request you to retire from politics at least for a month only, and let us have discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. I'm sure thereby that you shall get a new light from the result of such discussions, not only for your benefit, but for the benefit of the world at large, as I know that you are sincere, honest, and moralist. Awaiting your early reply with interest, yours sincerely, Abhay Charan Day. So how much stress Prabhupada was putting on for Gandhiji to preach devotions, practice and preach it. Because his point was, he's such a great leader. People follow him. And if he says, yes, follow Bhagavad Gita, people would do that. And he could have done that. He could have. But again, it's his desire, his independence. So what could anyone do? There was no reply. A month later, Gandhi announced that he would fast until death unless India made a payment of 55 crore rupees to Pakistan, a previous condition of the partition agreement. At first, Hindu refugees from Pakistan demonstrated outside Gandhi's darkened room, chanting, "Let Gandhi die." But as he fasted each day closer to death, he aroused the heartfelt concern of the nation, and the government leaders repaid the money to Pakistan. Then great crowds approached him, chanting, "Let Gandhi live." Meanwhile, Hindu-Muslim violence continued. On January 30th, the day after he had drafted a new constitution for the Congress party, Gandhi took his evening meal, worked at his spinning wheel, then walked towards his evening prayer meeting, and he was shot 3 times in the chest. He died, crying out the name of God, "Hey Ram." Abhay's letter of the previous month suddenly read like a prophecy, but it had not been read by the person for whom it had been intended. Of course, many conspiracy theories are there. Whether Nathuram Godse shot him 3 times because it was not possible. The gun he had, a pistol he had, it wasn't that sophisticated to shoot 3 times very fast. And whether he said, "Hey Ram," when he was dying, Nathuram Godse said, no, he never said that. So many things are there. Because media was controlled, so government can make stories whatever they wanted to. But anyway, yes, it was sad the way he died, and this Prabhupada had told him, had predicted that this is going to happen, and it did happen. So the point is, whether we are leaders, whatever we are, follow devotion service and preach the message of Bhagavad Gita. That's all. Then our life is perfect. Otherwise, what's the point in working so hard, putting in so much of effort, energy, everything in building a nation, but then we miss the ultimate goal. So what's the point? Okay, I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai